There's a screen and get going. Okay, good evening, everyone. I hope you're doing well. It's a Wednesday. It's our second share of the week. We're moving forward, and today we're in Perek Yud Aleph. As usual, just a reminder that all classes are recorded. Questions preferably in the end. The shir tonight is in memory of my grandfather. His yahrzeit was today on Bet Kislev. This is my father's father. So our learning should be memory. Yes, we are Yekers, so there's a Chaver. Okay. On both sides I have Chaver. Okay. So what do we have in our chapter? It's a very interesting chapter, story-wise and conceptual-wise. So we start our chapter hearing that the king of Ammon, Nachash, Melech Ammon, he threatens the people of Yavesh Gilad, and the people of Yavesh Gilad tell him, instead of us fighting against you, we are willing to surrender. Allow us to surrender. And he says, sure, no problem, you can surrender. Just one little small detail, you'll be required to take out your right eye, and this will be a point of embarrassment, showing how superior I am to you. We can speak about why exactly, and this is what he tells them. To that, the people respond, okay, sure, we could do that, but give us a week to see if we have a better solution. And he says, okay, go ahead, look for a better solution. And the people of Yavesh Gilad send messengers. Some of them arrive in Binyamin, near Shaul's house. They tell the people what's going on. The people start crying. And as they start crying, Shaul arrives and he's asking what's going on. And they tell him what is going on. Shaul is upset. He decides to take action. He takes an ox or two oxes. He dissects them to 12 pieces. He sends them with messengers to all of the tribes. And he says, whoever will not join me for war, this is what will happen to their cattle, to their bakar. And he manages to collect a big army, and the army is successful in defeating Ammon. After they defeat Ammon, the people come and tell Shmuel, remember when we anointed Shaul, there were people that spoke badly upon him, those Bnei Belial. Okay, let's go and kill them. Whoever said bad things about Shaul, now it's out of fashion to be against Shaul because he was so good. So let's punish them. Shaul says no one is going to die today. And instead, Shmuel tells the nation, we'll re-anoint, we'll create this crowning of Shaul, and they do a second one. So this is our chapter overall, and this is what we're going to look into today. So the first thing I want you to notice is that our chapter has quite a few similarities to Sefer Shoftim. There's a main similarity, but there are also a few small ones. So first of all, we're speaking about the end of the book of Shoftim. So we have Iftach HaGiladi as one of the last Shoftim. He was from the area of Gilad. He had a war against Ammon. This is the same enemy and the same area. And in both places, the people of Ammon wanted to go to battle. And Iftach, if you remember, he started engaging with a whole diplomatic procedure with them, telling them, why are you coming against me? Also in order to stall and create more time, and then he attacks by surprise. So that is similar in a certain extent to our chapter. Shimshon is punished by the Plishtim that his eyes are taken out. I don't have the correct expression in English, which is probably fine. I'm not professional in taking people's eyes out, so I'm not sure what the exact term is. So that happens with Shimshon as a form of punishment. But the real story this reminds us of is a story of Pilegesh Bagiva. Why? So a few things. First of all, in Pilegesh Bagiva, all of the nation fought against Binyamin and against the people of Yavesh Gilad. Shaul is from Binyamin. He is saving the people of Yavesh Gilad. And those two are connected. If you remember, after Bnei Israel defeated Binyamin in battle, there were not enough men and women to get married, and therefore what did they do? And everyone swore not to give wives to the tribe of Binyamin. So the nation went, killed all the men in Yavesh Gilad, and married the couples together. So we know that the people of Yavesh Gilad and Binyamin are married. There are quite a few couples. The other thing that we have is, how did the nation hear about what happened in Pilegesh Bagiva? So the person that dissected her body and sent it out in the same way that Shaul does it here. And in both places, that was created to gather the nation. And in both places, there's, before actually going to battle and knowing what to do, there's a lot of crying and sadness. We'll speak later about why we have this similarity, but I want you to already have it in mind as we'll explore the chapter. So now let's go a bit by order. You know that Michal always said, if there's no map there, we can't continue with our class. So here is the map. You see over here where it says Ammon. This is the area of the kingdom of Ammon, just east of the Menashe Gad, and over here on the bottom it will be Reuven. Yavesh Gilad is here on top. It's important to notice that Yavesh Gilad is what the Gemara will call Arei Sfar. These are cities that are on the border. Those are the cities that are always exposed to the most threats and attacks, etc. They are easier to approach, and this is what Ammon does. There are less people to defend them. And as you see, this is where Shaul will come from. Vayifkedem bebezek, this is where his army will gather, and from here they'll go out to the attack. An interesting thing to notice regarding the Lashon, the language that the people of Yavesh Gilad are using. So when they ask for a covenant, for an ally, what do they say? Kurot lanu brit v'na'ovdecha. It's interesting to notice that throughout Tanakh, Kurot lanu brit means you should create a covenant with us, but there's clearly a strong and a weak side. This is also the form of language where, for example, the Givonim ask from Yoshua for a covenant. This is Kurot lanu, allow us to join. And then there's a weaker side that needs to pay tribute. When we have a covenant between two equal sides, usually we'll have Kurot imanu. So it's important or interesting to notice the difference. So they're already admitting to start with that they have the lower hand. And the king of Ammon, he wants to embarrass the nation. And this is probably the answer to why he allows them to wait for 7 days, right? If you're now going to fight against someone and you're going out to war and the other guy saying, wait, give me a while to get organized, your answer should be, no, I want to defeat you. I'll come now. But this is very surprising that he allows it. So the two reasons how we could explain it is as follows. Either, similarly to Goliath, when we'll see later on the chapter against Goliath, we will see also there's a shoresh of cherpa. He will be mecharef ma'archot Elokim chaim. What's the point there? He's saying, I'm willing to fight against you, and no one is coming. And the longer it takes for someone to come against me, the more embarrassing it is for you. So I think the king of Ammon is saying, if I give them 7 days, and then they need to do it, this is even more embarrassing to them, and this makes me an even stronger king. Even when I allow them the 7 days, still they cannot be successful. The other thing is that it's showing us that he just wants to show them how sure he is of his victory, meaning it's a point of strength. Maybe I wasn't that afraid of Ammon, and I said, okay, maybe I have a chance. And now that they told me, you know what, take 7 days, and then I'll fight you, you're saying, wow, if he's so sure about himself, so maybe I'm more afraid, and I should be worried about that too. So now, the people of Yavesh Gilad decide to send a messenger. Let's see it inside in the Psukim for a moment. So they tell the king, "V'im en Moshiach otanu," they say, "V'nishlecha malachim bechol gvul Yisrael, v'im en Moshiach otanu v'yatzanu elecha." So we'll send messengers throughout the borders, and if no one will come, we will surrender, we will come out to you. And then we are told, ויבואו המלאכים גבעת שאול וידברו הדברים באוזניהם. They arrive in Givat Shaul specifically, and they speak to the nation. Now, we do not know if they went throughout the entire country and no one responded, and we are just now mentioned one place because it's important, or they came specifically there. My assumption would be that they went straight away to Binyamin, meaning the people of Yavesh Gilad, this is not the first time that they are in trouble. This is not the first time that they're fighting. If you remember, Yiftach already told the nation, whenever we need help, no one comes. And that's why when Ephraim complained afterwards and said, oh, why didn't he call us to defeat? Yiftach fought against them. No one comes to help the people of Yavesh Gilad. Rather, they go to Binyamin. Why to Binyamin? Because they have a close relationship with them. A lot of the families are married, and they're saying, if anyone could help us, it would be the people of Binyamin. But what is a response of the people of Binyamin? They sit down and they cry, meaning they are helpless. They know that they don't have the ability to help. And what is interesting here is that within the entire story, no one is speaking about the king that was just appointed in the previous chapter, right? In the end of Perek Yud, we went to the mitzvah, we had a ceremony, Shaul was chosen. Now the people arrived in the place where Shaul lives. They're telling the other people, we have trouble, everyone is crying, no one is approaching the king has nothing to say. Not only that, Pasuk A, Vine Shaul ba'achrei bakar min hasadeh. Shaul is coming back from work. He's leading his oxes back from the field. Vayomer Shaul ma la'am ki yivku. Why is everyone crying? Vayisapru lo et divrei anshei Yavesh. Meaning, not only did the people not look for Shaul to start with, rather, even when he arrived, he needs to ask for information, and people tell him. And then we will see soon a bit of a change. But what is important to notice here, that Shaul is described as a regular individual going out to work. The messengers are not approaching him, and he doesn't seem like a king. No one is looking for him. He's not behaving like a king, and he just happens to be there. What I'll suggest now, and we'll see it as it develops, that it's very likely that there is a difference between Hashem choosing Shaul and Shaul becoming king. Meaning, in the previous chapter, we saw that Shaul was chosen. And then a few people said, Yechi Melech, okay, long lives the king. Some people joined him, and some people said, oh, who is this king? But there was no act of saying, this is how the king will behave. This is his throne. Now he'll have an army. Now he'll do this. He was chosen. I would say maybe it's a similar situation to after an election, but before anything happened with it, right? Someone new was chosen, but he's still not in power until certain things happen. So we're in a moratorium period. Shaul is chosen as king, but he's not acting like king. The nation doesn't view him as king. And something will need to change in order for it to happen. And what happened? Shaul comes back, he's upset, and then what does he do? He takes these two oxes and he slaughters them, dissects them, and spreads them out. And what I would like to say is that this is the first time it happens, but we have a different time in Tanakh, and we can maybe learn something about it. Later on in Sefer Melachim, Eliyahu is a prophet, and he is told to go and appoint a new prophet. This new prophet will be Elisha. And when he arrives to meet Elisha, Elisha is plowing the field, and there are 12 pairs of oxes plowing, and Elisha is plowing in the last one. And when Elisha understands that he needs to follow Eliyahu, what does he do? Over here in Pasuk Kaf, Vayashav me'achorav, vayikach et tzemed habakar vayizbecheu, uvechli habakar bishlam habasar vayiten la'am vayochelu. Elisha takes the oxes that he was using, he sacrifices them, and gives it to the nation. Maybe what we see here is as follows. When you take the oxes that you were plowing with and sacrifice them or dissect them or finish them, what are you saying? You're saying, I'm no longer that row. Until now, I was a person of the ground, I was plowing, I was Ishadama, but now I sacrifice it and I have a new role. For Elisha, it's being a prophet. To a certain degree, when Shaul takes his working animals and he dissects them and he's sending out, he's telling the nation, look, I stopped being regular me And this is me now starting behaving like a king. Meaning, you know I was chosen. Until now, I didn't practice my ability. This is a representation of me saying I changed my role. The other things that he is telling the nation is as follows, that everyone that will not do so will be punished, and this is similar to what Shmuel told the nation. Rav Rabinovich Zatzal of Ma'ale Adumim, that he was also from Toronto originally, I believe he was a rabbi in Clanton Park. He has an idea, he says that one of the special things about the oxes, they always plow two together. So Shaul is saying, if you will not come together with the people of Yavesh Gilad, and something will happen to the people of Yavesh Gilad, you won't have yours either. Meaning he's sending a representation telling the people, if you'll allow the people of Yavesh Gilad to be embarrassed, this embarrasses you. So he's giving them a symbol, he's threatening them, he's telling them that something changed in his role, and that is enough to get the people out of their comfort place. But why really does it work? So these are the next two psukim. ותצלח רוח אלוהים על שאול כשומעו את הדברים האלה ויחר אפו מאוד. Until now, Shaul is gentle. Shaul listens to others. Shaul does what Shmuel says, what his servant says. But the Ruach Elokim, the Spirit of Hashem, joins him. And this is the first time we see Shaul nearly having his own emotions. He gets upset. He gets cross. He gets decisive. And this is him turning into a king. And then what happens? What does he tell the nation? אשר איננו יוצא אחרי שאול ואחר שמואל כה יעשה לבשרו ויפול פחד השם על העם. Meaning, first of all, he's mentioning that it's not only him, but it's also Shmuel. Meaning, without even speaking to Shmuel, he says this is a war together with a prophet. This is a war of Hashem. Second thing he does is, he receives the help of Hashem. Vayipol pachad Hashem alam, meaning Hashem assisted him. Hashem gave him the spirit. Hashem gave the fear of Shaul into the nation. And Hashem is turning Shaul into the correct person that can do this change. And really, we'll see inside, they go, they have the battle, ויפקדם בבזק, ויהיו בני ישראל 300,000 ואיש יהודה 30,000. Here we already see for the first time, even though it's already apparent in Shoftim, but there is a certain difference between everyone in the tribe of Yehuda. This will get clearer as we'll move along, meaning we see already the buds and the beginning of this process already here. And then they are telling the people of Yavesh Gilad, don't do anything, we're coming to save them. And the people of Yavesh tell Nachash, don't worry, tomorrow we're coming and you can do to us whatever you want. And look how what a lovely play of words that the translation is taking. Because in English, what does it say? And ye shall do with us all that seems good unto you. Okay? But what is the Hebrew saying here? V'asitem lanu kechol hatov be'einechem. This is such a lovely pun of the Tanakh when the people of Yavesh Gilad, hatov be'einechem, you wanted to take our eyes, so you will do whatever is good in your eyes. Meaning, we are listening to you, but so now everyone is calm and relaxed, but really it won't be that way. But this is just the beauty of the language of Tanakh. And then what happens? Vayhimi machorat, on the next day, vayasem Shaul et ha'am shlosha rashim, so he divides them into a few sections, and he defeats Ammon. Now, this, to me, until now, this chapter sounds exactly like a chapter of, I don't want to distract, but you all want to say this. This is clearly a chapter from Sefer Shoftim. Meaning, we have an enemy in the beginning. The enemy wants to create trouble. The trouble is located in one area. There's one individual that Hashem is going to inspire. That individual will go out to war. The war will not be described in such great detail. He is successful and he defeats him. This is a classic shofet. Shaul, here in the chapter, is described as a shofet. Okay? It's one for one. If you'll see a structure of the story of Otniel and the story of Dvorah, it's very similar. But what happens here is that the nation wants to take Shaul and say, this is an individual that is appropriate to be king. How do they know that he's appropriate to be king? Because Hashem chose him. Meaning, what I would like to say is as follows. In the previous chapter, Shmuel says, this is an individual appropriate of being a king. There's a potential. And the nation, some said okay, some said maybe, some say let's wait and see. We don't know. This chapter showed the nation that Shaul has a certain ability, and together with that ability and the words of Hashem that chose him, they say, okay, we can go and appoint him to be king. But we'll soon see more differences between the two times where Shaul is appointed. And then what happens? Vayomer העם אל שמואל, מי האומר שאול ימלוך עלינו, תנו האנשים ונמיתם. So who are the ones that said Shaul will be our king? Give us those people and we shall kill them. And now, this is clearly a pasuk that you can read in two ways. Meaning, what happened in the previous chapter? Let's just go there a second so we can see it inside. So towards the end, after Shaul was chosen, we said as follows. Certain people said, Vayomru yechi hamelech, long live the king. And certain people, Vayam Shaul alach leveito, Givata va'ilchu imo achayil asher naga Elohim belibam, and certain people followed. Uvnei Belial amru ma yoshienu zeh, certain people said, how will this guy save us? Vayivazuhu velo eviu lo mincha, and they did not respect him and did not give him any mincha. Now, the question is as follows. Do we read it without the, in Hebrew we say siman tmiha, right? We can read it in two ways. Who said Shaul will be our king? We should kill him. Meaning, whoever thought that Shaul needs to be our king, let's kill him. Literally. Why? So I would say, if we would read it that way, we would say that the people are coming to Shmuel and telling him, we really didn't need a king. You were against having a king. We don't need a king. Here, we have someone working as a shofet. We are saved. We don't need this entire concept of a king. Whoever said we need a king, let's kill them. Or we can read it with as if we are saying it with a surprise, right? Who said that Shaul will, is anyone that said, oh, Shaul will be our king? Whoever was skeptic about Shaul being a king, let's kill them because he already proved that he can be king. Again, are we upset with the people that actually said, let's have Shaul as a king because we don't need a king? Or are we saying, whoever said, oh, Shaul will be our king in a sarcastic way, we should kill them? And what does Shaul say? Lo yumat ish bayom hazeh. We should not kill anyone today. And what I want to say is as follows. In the end of Perek Yud, when we have all the people arguing, we didn't have two groups. I want to suggest that we had three groups. We had a group that wanted a king and wanted Shaul as a king. We had a group that said, we don't want Shaul as a king. But the people that said we don't want Shaul as a king were divided into two. Some had a problem with Shaul himself. He doesn't look like a good candidate. But some people said we do not need a king, meaning we want to listen to Shmuel. Shmuel told us all along we don't need a king. And people said, why do we need this human being to save us? We have Hashem. Meaning, after this action, all of the nation was upset. We have a battle within the nation. Some people are still up for having a king. Some people say we shouldn't have a king. People are telling each other, who said that? Okay? And what is the answer of Shaul? No one is going to die today. He doesn't say, Lo yumtu ha'anashim she'amru kach. He doesn't say, Lo yumtu ha'anashim ha'ele. He says no one should die. Meaning, Shaul sees how there's a potential of this great day turning into a bad day. And he says, no one will die. And then he hits the point. Why? Ki hayom asa Hashem tshuva b'Yisrael. He's saying, who saved us? Not me, rather Hashem. And this gives an answer to everyone. If you said, why do we need to have a king? We have Hashem. Oh, my king is acknowledging Hashem. If you said Shaul is not appropriate, he just defeated. He did his action. If you wanted Shaul, you're good. So Shaul united everyone with this saying, no one is going to die today. And this takes us back to the beginning, how similar it is to Pilegesh Bagiva, but as a counter image. In Pilegesh Bagiva, what happened? We fought once against each other. We had a problem within the nation, and our nation fought against our own nation. Over here, Shaul does the exact opposite. We fight against a threat from outside, we follow Hashem on the inside, and we don't hurt each other. We don't dissect people, we dissect animals. We gather together to fight against our enemies and not against ourselves. meaning Shaul now creates a counter image. And if you remember, it's also a counter image of how does Sefer Shoftim end? Bayamim hahem en melech beYisrael, ish hayashar be'einav yaseh. And this is clearly the closing image when we would say in these days, we have a king in Israel who does what is valuable in the eyes of Hashem. And this is the answer of Shaul to that concept at the end of Sefer Shoftim. Then we have the nation going and renewing the kingdom. And there are a few things I would like to emphasize. What I'm going to tell you next, I didn't see anyone saying, which means either I'm very bright or I'm very mistaken. Most likely the second one. So take this with a grain of salt. And the point is as follows. If you will recall, in chapter 7, Shmuel gathered the nation and spoke to them. And then they had a battle against Plishtim and they won. If you remember, why did we have a battle? The Plishtim heard that everyone gathered and they came to battle. Because in old days, if everyone gathers together, that means we're going to war. Later on, twice, we have this cryptic phrase in the end of Perek Chet, Vayomer Hashem el Shmuel Shma bekolam. Hashem tells Shmuel, listen to them, give them a king. Vayomer Shmuel an Anshe Yisrael lechu ish liro. Shmuel tells the people, go back to your city. Why is he saying that? Okay. Later on again, in chapter 10, that we saw last time. Let me just switch to the pasuk that I want. Vayeshalach Shmuel et kol ha'am ish lebeito, and he sent everyone home. Why is Shmuel so strict about bedtime? Right? He makes sure everyone goes home. What is the point? So what I would like to suggest is as follows. It's clear that right now in the days of Shaul, the nation is not the strong nation in the country. The Plishtim are very scary. We'll see it soon. If everyone gathers together and Hashem doesn't create miracles, they are coming to battle and you will lose. So everyone comes to speak to Shmuel. Shmuel gives him an answer and he says, now go home before this turns into a battle. After we appoint Shaul, let's go home, because if we won't go home and they will hear we chose a king, this means battle. When we are now going and we are willing to appoint Shaul, this says, and when our chapter doesn't end that way, this is saying we trust Hashem, we trust our king, we now are beginning to have an army. This is less scary maybe to stay in one place. So it shows us something about the change this makes for Bnei Israel, but it also will give us insight moving forward as to how the situation was not good. But the other things that we should notice here is as follows. וילכו כל העם הגילגל, וימליכו שם את שאול לפני השם בגילגל, ויזבחו שם זבחים שלמים לפני השם, וישמח שם שאול וכל אנשי ישראל עד מאוד. The emphasis here that we didn't have in the previous crowning is לפני השם. It is emphasized that they are sacrificing korbanot. It is emphasized that this is לפני השם. The mitzvah, where they met last time, is a place of war. The Gilgal is a place that was used in the days of Yoshua for war, but it's also a place of covenant, where there are big stones that have the brit on top of them, meaning the acknowledgement that it's a victory of Hashem, again, shows the difference between the two crownings of Shaul, and this is maybe what creates the difference and the unity, and I would say maybe Shmuel's more agreeable style to what is going. So, we spoke about this already, and I don't have time for it, really. So I would say as follows. I'll just say it quickly. You'll forgive me if you need to go. I apologize. We see that this is a certain closure from Sefer Shoftim. A king or a judge. Shaul, you can view him as a judge. Throughout this chapter, he behaved as a judge. Later on, they appoint him as king. But the main thing is to be connected to Hashem, that our wars are against the enemies, that no one from within the nation is killed, and that it's a union between the kings, the prophet, and Hashem. And this closed the cycle from Sefer Shoftim. We spoke about it earlier. Now you have it in front of you on a slide, so it's true, because it's written. So, what should you know now after what we did today? Our chapter creates comparisons to the book of Shoftim, mainly to Pilegesh Bagiva. This is to show us the difference between having or not having a king, and how the nation moved forward in the process. Again, not against each other, against our enemies, being close to Hashem, a different outcome, etc. We see there's a difference between a king being chosen and a king being appointed and accepted by the nation. We would suggest that in chapter 10, Shaul is chosen, but only in chapter 11, when he acts upon it and he does his act of accepting the kingship upon himself, when he dissects the animal, when he's decisive, this is when the nation are willing to appoint him. We saw that Shaul is not treated as a king in the beginning of the chapter. He doesn't view himself as king at the beginning of the chapter. And only when the nation is supportive of Shaul, he starts behaving in the best interest. We mentioned that by saying that no one will die today, and this is a victory of Hashem, he is uniting all the people around him instead of separating. And this is why we could emphasize it, how the first ceremony of Shaul was focused on Yechi HaMelech, the people that were in favor of Shaul said, long live the king, and Hashem was not there. And the other people said, oh, how will he save us? As opposed to our chapter where the emphasis is Lifnei Hashem. If it's in front of Hashem, everyone is united. If it's the king itself, so some people think it's a good king, some people think it's a bad king, some people think we don't need a king whatsoever. And our chapter emphasizes how it really should be. So we'll stop here. I'll stop the recording.